You're listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies. And today, my guest is writer, director John Swab. And we're talking about his brand new movie entitled Ida Red. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here. This is an interesting film. You have an amazing cast, an amazing cast. I love Josh Hartnett. Love him in almost everything that he does. I just adore him. But you have Academy Award-winning actress Melissa Leo and Frank Grillo. Is that how you say it?
I think that's probably the proper enunciation, but everybody else just says Grillo.
Yeah. Grillo, okay. Frank Grillo, okay.
Yep.
I was doing the pronunciation, and just a great cast. I mean, William Forsythe. So it's an interesting ride. This is a wonderful ride. One of those movies that you just go on the journey with. So our audience knows a little bit about this, what the movie's all about. Why don't you give a synopsis of Ida Red?
Sure. Yeah. Ida Red is about a kind of a matriarch of a criminal family. Ida Red, played by Melissa Leo, who is in prison serving a 25-year sentence. She's been in there for about 15 years. And in that time, her son has been on the outside kind of conducting the family's work. And she is behind bars kind of choreographing all this and pulling the strings on these jobs. And basically we find out she's ill, and it's basically the story of her son Wyatt, played by Josh, to do this one last job and hopefully get his mom out of prison.
And mischief ensues.
Plenty of mischief ensues. That's, yeah, absolutely.
After that, so you wrote this. So tell me where this idea germinated, and how did it germinated? Where did you come up with it?
I love these kind of movies. I love action films. I love like classic crime family dramas. And my partner and producer in these things, Jeremy Rosen, and I, wanted to make a film that was an homage and kind of our version of one of those classic movies. And so it kind of was born out of that. I've worked with Melissa and with Frank Grillo before, and I had an idea for a couple characters that I thought they'd be great at playing. And the script kind of all unfolded from that.
What other were they both in the same movie that you worked with them before?
Yeah, they were both in a movie called Body Brokers that came out actually in February of this year. They both were part of that.
So that was the first movie you did with both of them, and then you did this as a follow-up afterwards? Well, not a follow-up to that film, but just a follow-up with both of them.
Yeah.
Great actors, great actors.
Absolutely, very great actors, yeah.
Wonderful to work with the best when you're doing this, and you got to work with the best. So I was going to say, how did you attract them to this? And how did you attract them to your other movie?
Melissa has become kind of a friend and a mentor to me. She doesn't live far from where I was living in the Hudson Valley, and we got to know each other around there. And I tried to get her in a previous film. It didn't end up working out. And we stayed in touch, and I took her the script to the film I just referenced, Body Brokers, and she loved it, came on board, did a great job. We enjoyed working together a lot. And I also, like I said, I've gotten to know her really well, and she's been very gracious with her time and just her wealth of knowledge and experience in the movie business, that she's kind of really helped counsel me on decisions and also in writing and directing and all of the above. So I try and involve her as much as I can, because I have so much respect for her as an actress, but also just as a person. So that's kind of how she got involved with Ida Red, is that I had done Body Brokers. I told her I was writing this role for her, and then I took her the script, and she thankfully was flattered and came on board to do it. And then Frank actually came via a relationship that Jeremy, my producer, has. We brought on another producer for Body Brokers, and we're introduced to the idea of Frank. And after speaking to the guy, he's truly one of a kind. And we really enjoyed the process of doing Body Brokers together. It was a smaller role in that film, and I got to see and how he was to work with and how he was as a person. and it just kind of motivated me to want to do more with him as an actor. And so I wrote him, the role of Dallas in this movie, which he, ran with and really had a lot of fun with. And I think, uh, just did an incredible job.
Oh, he does. You can't keep your eyes off of him. When he's
That's
on
right.
the screen, he's like, that old expression, eats up the scenery, I guess. But he is compelling to watch when he's on the screen. So
Right.
yeah, and you could tell he was relishing this role.
Yeah, yeah. He had a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
So you filmed this in Oklahoma, correct?
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's where you're from originally?
It is where I'm from. Yeah.
So how was that filming it in your hometown?
It was great. I mean, I wrote it for Oklahoma as well. That was actually the fourth film I had done in Oklahoma, so it wasn't something that was new to me. I owe a lot of my success in a lot of the I guess the small breaks I've had in my career to Oklahoma because I've done so much work here and I've gotten so much support from the people here. So I quite enjoy working in my own backyard because I know what resources I have and I have a lot more relationship here than I do in another, the place where I'm not from. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. To go back, I wanted to say you couldn't find a better mentor than Melissa Leo. How
Hmm.
lucky are you to
Yeah,
have
very lucky. Yeah.
one of the best in the business,
Yeah,
really?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, she's I think she is, one of the best in the business, and I have nothing but love and adoration and gratitude for her and all she's done for me. So,
How lovely. How blessed
yeah.
you are, for sure. So, Josh Hartnett, how did you attract him to this movie?
Yeah, that kind of it in a way kind of came out of nowhere. We weren't expecting it, and again, my producer and partner and all these things, Jeremy, he's kind of a casting wizard in terms of, we do a lot of it together, and I write the stories and I take it to him, and we kind of discuss different archetypes or things that we see in the character, and then he comes back with a lot of great ideas, and Josh. I think his agent got the script and read it and just loved it for Josh, that role. So, it kind of all just happened, like I said, unexpectedly. But when the idea was presented, it seemed like the really cool and fun idea because obviously Josh is was a movie star by all accounts when I was growing up, and he's made some interesting choices since that time and done a lot of indie films and art house films, and I really respect that. So the idea that he wanted to come down and play this role was very flattering, and we were excited for the opportunity, and I think he did a great job.
Oh, he does. It's what is so wonderful about his performance is that, and this is what he brings to it, is that you want to have sympathy towards him, you know, from his predicament of what he's, how he's involved in all of this. And that's hard to bring, here's somebody who's not really necessarily a good person. It's done a lot of things that people might judge as not being so nice,
Right.
and yet he brings the humanity to it. The whole film has that too, so that's what I liked about it. It was there, the family dynamics of everyone and how they all relate to each other and how they're very loyal to one another,
Mhm.
um, you know despite things maybe not going the right way, but nobody seems to, it's not like they beat up on each other about those things. They just try to work it out. And I liked that aspect of this film, the family aspect. So
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, was that something that you had originally thought of that was a central part when you were writing this, that you were going to
Yeah.
bring in the family dynamic?
I mean, I think definitely. I mean, there's a lot of action movies, and I love, some, if not all, action films just for I just love movies. But I think the thing that we were trying to make a little more unique with this, or at least referencing movies that we really like, and they all have a very strong family aspect. And I think more than an action or a crime movie, this is, you know, a movie about those family relationships and dynamics you're talking about. So in writing it, it was definitely the central theme was the family element of the movie. You know, and then everything else is kind of secondary. So yeah, I mean, but you know, I think we did a good job with casting, and all the actors were great, and understood the, you know, the dynamics we were going for. So you know, luckily it worked, you know, at least in my opinion. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it does work, yeah, as I said. So again, to go back, what was the inspiration for this?
You know,
I,
just
I know you said some other movies that you've liked, but what was because you know I always like to hear about someone's creative process and what sparked them to write something or film something or whatever the artistic or paint something, you know, what inspired you?
I'm gonna let my dogs out really quick before I answer that, so they don't bark through this whole
I'm not hearing them, so why don't you just
Oh, okay.
keep
Or you're
going?
not hearing. Good.
No.
All right. Um, inspiration for me. So the movie we finished before this is called Body Brokers, and it's a true story about the drug rehabilitation system and how, you know, flawed it is, and it's become very predatory, and a lot of people are losing their lives to it. So the film itself was very cathartic for me to make, because I had been through that whole thing, and also the social responsibility of it was also, um, you know, it was heavy, and it was very apparent that we were telling something that needed to be told. So when we got done with that movie, I wasn't interested in jumping back into a movie with a cause or some kind of social you know, commentary on the state of the world or healthcare system or people or anything like that. So the idea was, let's do something that is carefree and more in line with a popcorn movie, or something that, you know, will just provide an escape and nothing else for people to go and watch and just enjoy, and be carefree about it. A lot of my favorite movies growing up were movies like that, where, you know, whether it was like Heat, or, you know, older films like The Getaway or Thief or anything like that, those just took me somewhere else, and I didn't have any, uh, you know, I didn't leave with any guilt or shame or anything like that about what was going on in the world around me after watching them. I just got the experience of watching a film, and and that's where the inspiration came from. Jeremy and I sat down and we were like, well, I don't want to go through that again right now, in terms of, you know, all of the research, and you know, telling the story of these kids and these families. I want to just tell a movie that will allow people to just sit down, relax, and enjoy enjoy a Hollywood-esque kind of movie. So that's where it came from.
That's you have done it. You achieved what you wanted to do. Definitely, it does take you on that ride and journey. And you know, movies. People go to movies to be entertained. They want to go away for a couple of hours
Yeah, yeah.
and experience. I was just talking in my to my last interview, and we were talking offline, and during the pandemic I didn't want to watch anything that was too heavy at all, and he said the same thing. We're all watching comedies and everything else because but something like this isn't heavy. It's takes you on a ride. I like action films, and this is definitely an action film. So it's a little different, but as far as like a a heavy, dealing with heavy issues, I think most of us were like, okay, we don't really want to go through that. We're going through enough on our own right now. So this movie
Mm.
is definitely a popcorn movie, as you said. It's a definite popcorn movie. Who inspires you? I mean, you haven't been directing. How long have you been directing? And
I guess about 8 or 9 years I've been
okay,
making movies, including short films. Yeah, so about 7 to 9 years. I don't really know the exact time, but yeah, a decent amount of time. Not that long though.
yeah, I thought you were a new director still in the bit, a relatively new director, and that's exciting. You're at a good point in your career. You've done it long enough, and you're starting to really to move the needle, as they say. So, who inspires you as a director?
I don't really know. I mean, you know, I don't really have a. There's a lot of directors I like to watch their films, but you know, I've made 5 movies now, and instead of that hasn't really refined who inspires me. It's actually broadened what inspires me. So, I can enjoy, the more movies I make, the more I can appreciate just any kind of film and any kind of something, I just appreciate and am inspired by anybody who's trying to do something, because I know how hard it is to make a movie. I know how hard it is to not just talk about doing something and actually do it. So, my inspiration isn't limited to filmmakers. It's, I'm inspired by, going to the grocery store, and just seeing something new or talking to somebody or just meeting people. I take a lot of photos, like just film photos on my own, and I'm more inspired by life experiences and just conversation with people I don't know than, works of art, I guess. So, I don't know, that might be a little more broad of an answer than you were looking for, but I am still inspired by people who make films as well, but
Oh, yeah.
mostly filmmakers of the past. Yeah. So.
That's why I love what I do. It's to showcase uh, filmmakers, independent filmmakers and documentarians, because they're living their dream. And I know how difficult it is
Mm.
to make a movie and get there. You said 5 films in only 7 or 8 years. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty prolific at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I recently learned that prolific doesn't mean that you're good. It just means that you're working very hard. So that was that. Yeah, I guess it has been a prolific time. I'm actually in prep on my sixth that we're going to shoot in about 2 weeks or start shooting. So I like to work and I like to learn and I like to try and get better, and I don't like to sit around and stew in, what I perceive as my mistakes are. And I'd rather just get out there and try and correct them on the next thing. So, in the spirit of that, I've just tried to stay busy. I've been fortunate enough to have opportunities to keep making movies.
Yeah, you're lucky that you have been
Yeah.
able to do that. Do you write all your own films?
Up until this point, yeah, I have. Yeah.
And what's the next film that you're working on that you're going to start in a couple weeks?
It's called Little Dixie. It's another film, kind of in the same genre as Ida Red, which I had a lot of fun working in. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to doing it.
Who's in that one?
I can't say yet,
You
but
can't say yet?
yeah,
Okay.
but some familiar faces and people we're really excited about, and some new ones as well. So it'll be another fun ride.
Not to bring up anything controversial, but since there was a lot of gunfire in this film, and because of what recently happened on the set of Rust, do you have any thoughts about using guns, because you used a lot of them in this film, on your next productions, and just anything about what your thoughts are about what transpired?
I mean, obviously it's tragic and it's a terrible, terrible thing. I don't really have any thoughts on that specific instance because I don't, I don't even really read what has been going on or what happened. I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know. And frankly, I don't. There's nothing I have to say about that specific
Right,
instance, but
right. But I
I
meant
would
about
say that,
guns themselves on sets. That's really what my question
yeah,
was
well,
about, guns
I
on
mean,
sets, because a lot of people, a lot of actors and directors and filmmakers are saying they no longer want to use real guns on sets. And I was wondering, since your movie had a lot of guns, and it sounds like if it's going to be your next movie is going to be in the same genre, do you have any thoughts about what you might do going forward, making movies with guns?
I think it's a conversation, I haven't made any decisions. I've heard that some people are saying they're not gonna, use real weapons or guns anymore on sets, and that, I think that's totally respectable to say that and to stick to it. I haven't made any decisions about what we're gonna do. Movies have been being made for 100 years now, and they've used real guns. And, unfortunately, there has been even one instance like this is too many. I
Right.
think that to be true. But I don't know moving forward really what my plan will be. I mean, it's become a discussion on our side, but it's not really anything that we've made any declarations about, because we for obvious reasons, we are very, very safe, and we treat safety as the utmost. The biggest responsibility on the set is to be safe. Whether it's working with guns or camera equipment or whatever it may be, cars, anything. I mean, there's many things that could go wrong on a film set, and the minute you get lazy is the minute you're vulnerable for something to happen. So, but in terms of the gun thing, I haven't made any kind of decision, but it's definitely something we're going to monitor and keep discussing. So,
Well, it's a big conversation, obviously. Nothing has been very tragic. Do you have a dream actor or actress other than someone you've already worked with that you would like to work with? What's on your wish list?
I don't really have a wish list. I mean, I admire so many different actors that it really just kind of depends on what the script or the story calls for. I really, Frank and Melissa and a lot of the actors that I've gotten to work with would have been on my wish list, honestly.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
every time Michael K. Williams, I got to work with, he was on my wish list. So I don't know. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of the people that I guess would have been on a wish list had I had one. And moving forward, I don't really think about things like that. I just think about who's right for the role, and if they're right for the role, and it maybe it's an unknown person. I mean, that makes them on my wish list. So I get as excited about actors that nobody knows about as I do as ones that everybody does. So I think it's for me, it's entirely relative to the story and who's right for it.
Well, I know that you wrote these parts for Melissa Leo and said Frank Grillo too after you did the Body Brokers with them. When you're writing a script, do you have an actor or an actress in mind when you're writing it in general?
Not always. I mean, that situation was unique where I knew them, and I had I had a pretty good idea that they would do the role if I wrote it for them. But outside of that, I try not to, because then I end up writing it, with somebody else's cadence in mind, and it becomes too specific for me to see anybody else in that role. I mean, I've made that mistake before, I think, but since then I've tried never to do it. So I try and keep it open and just make the most original characters on the page I can, and then from there, uh, find the best version of that person.
Good thinking. Good thinking. What was the most difficult part of the shoot of Ida Red?
I would say probably the pandemic was kind of a pretty tough part. We shot this in July and August of last year, so it was really in the height of everything and all the hysteria, and more unknown then than is now. So it was quite the external pressure, to make sure everybody got through it safe, and we were being smart about how we were running our set and everything. But luckily, we didn't have one issue, and we got the movie made. So that was definitely a new kind of pressure that I hadn't encountered yet. That was pretty stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine. I guess there were quite a few movies that got made during COVID, and somehow they, were able to get through, and some weren't. When they sort of do the Harder They Fall, I guess the new movie with Idris Elba and Regina King, you got COVID right at the beginning and sidelined that
Right.
movie for quite a while. So you never know what's going to come up when
Right.
you're filming. Where can people see Ida Red?
I know it's in select cities and theaters starting tomorrow, the Friday the 5th. I also know that it'll be on Apple TV, all cable networks, on-demand platforms, Amazon, pretty much anywhere anybody would rent a new movie. I think it'll be available. And if there's a theater near you playing it, I would highly recommend seeing it that way if possible.
definitely. I believe that we should be seen on the big screen as much as
Yeah, yeah,
possible.
right.
So I agree. Well, thank you so much, John, for being on the show. I wish you much success with Ida Red, and everybody seek it out if you're looking for a good popcorn movie, an exciting movie. This is the one to check out, Ida Red. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jan.
If you have missed any of the Jan Price shows all about movies, you can go to my website, thejanpriceshow.com, and all the shows are archived on the website. But you can also go to wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcast. We are on the iHeart Podcast Network, Apple, Google Play, you name it, we're there. We're on YouTube. Please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe on YouTube, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Jan Price Show. Thank you all for listening.